So in that we are, so the big data analytics, the first chapter is introduction of digital data. Okay, so in that introduction of digital data, so fine. So actually what happened? Okay, now it's visible. So basically, the digital data has to be categorized into three ways: structured data, semi-structured data, and unstructured data. Okay, so we are going to see the first type, that is unstructured data. Okay, so the what is meant by unstructured data? So this data which does not confirm a data model, means they're having no any specific structure, and it not in the form so which can be used easily by the computer program. For example, suppose you can take the example of Google. Okay, so Google having the huge amount of data, so it consists of the text, images, videos, letters, research research papers are there. So lot of informations are at there. So means if they're having no any specific format for what you can store that data, right? So such types of data is called as a unstructured data. Okay guys, so what is meant by unstructured data? So unstructured data, that is a data which does not conform to a data model, or it is not in a form. Okay, so which is easily used by a computer network. Okay, fine. So that is nothing but what? Unstructured data. Okay, so here I am going to give one. So basically, in unstructured data, the no predefined structure at here. So you know that as in a structured data, so they're having a predefined structure. So by using DDL, what we have to do? So you can prepare a structure of that table, right? And according to that structure, we are going to insert the values into that. So in a structured data type, so you can store a data into the tabular format, means it consists of the rows and columns. But in case of unstructured data, so they're having no any predefined structure. Okay, so they are having no any data model. Okay, and data is irregular and ambiguous. Okay, so in case of structured data, so data is irregular and ambiguous is also there. So it is easiest to extract that data. So already I am saying at here. Okay, so it is used easily by a computer program. So that's why it is easier to extract that data. And here, hence, 80 to 90% of data is unstructured. Okay, because suppose you can consider any organization. Okay, so in that organization, so see, they're having one example organization. In this, they're having different types of datas are there. Suppose memos are there, chat rooms are there, PowerPoint presentations are there, then images, videos, letters, researches, white papers, body of the email. So means they're having different types of datas are there. Okay, so that's why such data can be stored in an unstructured format. Okay, so this data is called as a unstructured data. Okay, so what is meant by unstructured data? No predefined structure is there. Okay, no data model is there. Okay, so data is irregular and ambiguous. So this data is easiest to extract that data. So in 80 to 90% of data is unstructured. Okay, so here they're having one example at here. What? So that is organization having so different types of data is there. Okay, so suppose you can take the example of Facebook. Okay, so in the Facebook, in one day, millions of videos, then images and texts are uploaded, right? So how it can be stored? So these are in all these things are in the different format. Okay, so such types of data is called as a unstructured data. Okay, so uh, so it is a combination of what we have to say, unstructured data. It is a combination of text, numbers, audio, video, image, messages, social media. Okay, so all these the combination can be called as a unstructured data. Okay, so what is meant by unstructured data? Data which does not having data model, they are having no any predefined structure. The data is irregular and ambiguous. Okay, and this data can be easiest to extract the data by using computer program. Okay, so mostly in an organization 80 to 90% of data is in the unstructured format. Okay, because in the organization consists of the huge amount of data. In that data consist of text, numbers, audio, video, images, messages, social media, chat room, PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so all these combination. Okay, so it is a combination of all types of data. So that's why it is called as a unstructured data. Okay, then moving to the second type of the digital data, that is what? Semi-structured data. Okay, that is means semi-structured data. Okay, so what is meant by semi-structured data? So this is the data which does not confirm a data model. Okay, this is the data which does not confirm a data model but has some structure. Okay, so means it falls between structured and unstructured data, or you can say that it is a combination of both. Semi-structured data, it is a combination of both. Means it falls between structured and unstructured data, or you can say that it is a combination of both. Okay, so for example, so however, it is not in a form which can used easily by a computer program. So as like unstructured data, so these types of data can be easily used by using computer program. So for example, so you know that the XML language is there, then HTML hypertext markup language is there, JSON language is there. Okay, so all these languages having the different format. Okay, JSON's having the different structure format, XML having the different format. Again, HTML consists of the tabs and all that thing. So these languages are also having different format. Okay, but they're having some semi structure. Okay, and according to that structure, for example, you can take the example of HTML. See, here I am going to give an example. HTML. Okay, see. So in the HTML, what? So they're having the head. Okay, first you can write, first tag is HTML tag, then head tag, then title of your page, then body. Okay, in that body, whatever you can display, for example, images are there, some web elements are there, means text box, button and all that thing. So you can write, and after completion of that body you can complete that HTML tag. So this is also the structured. Okay, this is also semi structured. By using that we are going to write the code. Okay, so that's why it is called as a semi structured. Okay, now so see guys at here, so what is meant by semi structure? Semi structured, it falls between structured and unstructured data, or also it is called as it is a combination of both. Okay, so in that the data which does not confirm a data model, predefined data model असं काही नसतं ह्याच्यामध्ये. Okay, so however it does not forms. So basically, so for example, the XML markup language like HTML. Okay, so all these can be false on the semi-structured data. Okay, now moving to the next type of the digital data. So you all are familiar with that. So that is structured data, right? So structured data, you know that this is the data which is in the organized form. Okay, So for example, it can be organized in the form of rows and columns, means it can be stored in the tabular format. Okay, so it can be clearly defined. Okay, so data is stored a predefined data model. Okay, when you have to see that in case of structured data, in case of unstructured data, so they're having no any predefined data model. Okay, but in case of structured data, the data is stored a predefined model. Okay, so means in the form of rows and columns. Okay, so this is nothing but what? Structured data. So that data, for example, your SQL database. Okay, your any relational database. Okay, so relationship between the entities of data such as classes, their object, and data can be stored into the database in a structural format. Okay, so these are the example. You know that you are familiar with that. Okay, so the data can be stored into the tab in the form of rows and columns. Okay, so after storing that data into the relational database, okay, so there is need of data management system. Okay, there is need of data management system software, right? So that software manage the data into the what? Related format. So data in a structured data, it can be stored. They're having a predefined data model, so that their data can be stored in the form of rows and columns. Okay, but that data is managed. So there is need of database management system. Okay, so this is nothing but this is the classification of digital data. So data can be classified into three ways, which are unstructured, semi-structured, and structured data model. Okay, so guys, so how the approximately percentage of distribution of digital data? Okay, so how approximately means what is the percentage of distribution of digital data? So see guys, in this diagram, 80%, okay, 80% data are in the structured type. We are going to store that data in unstructured structured data. In a semi-structure, they're having 10%, and unstructured again they're having 10%. So this is approximate percentage of distribution of digital data. Okay, now we are going to see one by one. Okay, type of the digital data. So we are going to move the first type, that is structured data. Okay, so this is the data which is organized. Already I am talking about that. This data is organized in the form of rows and columns, right? So this data having this, they're having a predefined model. Okay, so by using DDL command, okay, so you can specify, okay, you can specify the structure, right? So in that they're having create command is there. Okay, by using create, we are going to create that table, right? So in that, by using create command, we are going to specify the structure of that table, right? And then next thing is that, so relationship exists between the entity of data. Okay, so whatever the elements we are going to store or attributes we are going to store into that table, so they're having some relation. So that's why it is called as a relational database management system. Okay, so data stored in the database is an example of structured data. Okay, so whatever the database are used, Oracle, then MySQL, SQL Server. Okay, so these are the examples of relational database management system. And relational database management system, it is a software that is used for manage the database. Okay, accessing, retrieving, maintaining the database by using this software, by using relational database. Okay, so what are the source of that data structure? Okay, well, means where actually we are going to get that structured data, and which are the sources of that structured data. Okay, so if your data is highly structured, so one can look at the leveraging any available RDBMS. Okay, relational database management system softwares are there. So in that we are going to organize that data. Okay, so basically you know that Oracle is there. Then this can be introduced by the Oracle Corporation. Then IBM, okay, IBM company has to be introduced at DB2. Then Microsoft having the SQL server. Okay, so Postgres, then MySQL, open source is there. Okay, Teradata. So these are the some of the relational database management system software. So these softwares are used for managing, accessing, retrieving the what structured data. Okay, so these database are typically used to hold the transaction. Okay, so by using what is the main purpose of that? So by using that we are going to perform a transaction or operation on that data. So whatever the data we are going to collect it, and we are going to perform your day-to-day business activity. So already in the MDS, okay, modern database system, or in your database management system subject, we have learned that OLTP and OLAP, right? So OLTP means online transaction processing. So whatever the day-to-day activities we are going to perform in your organization, so these transactions can be performed, okay, by using that. Okay, so this is nothing but the OLTP, online transaction processing. And OLAP means what? Anybody? What is meant by OLAP? Yes. What is meant by OLAP? OLAP means online analytical processing. Analytical. Okay, so you have to analyze the data and then you are going to retrieve the meaningful information, right? So basically in the DBMS, RDBMS, we are going to typically use a transaction or operation. We are going to fire that queries on that structured data, and by using that we are going to retrieve the information, meaningful information from that structured data. So basically we are going to perform online transaction processing systems in a structured data. Okay, so what are the sources of that structured data? So already I am saying that these are the some of the RDBMS softwares where we are going to store that data. Okay, such as Oracle, DB2, Teradata, MySQL, PostgreSQL. Okay, so these are the some of the what database management softwares where these are the source of that structured data. Then again spreadsheets. Okay, so Excel spreadsheet, and in Excel also we are going to store a data into the tabular format, right? So you know that. For example, in Excel also we are going to store a data into the tabular format, because in that Excel having the rows and columns. So spreadsheet also one of the source of that structured data. Then OLTP, online transaction processing system. So in that we are going to perform our day-to-day activities, right? So means suppose for example, if you have to consider one example of organization. Okay, so suppose new employees is joined, so you can insert the record of that employee. Okay, suppose if you have to make some changes into that record. Okay, so again you can update that thing. Okay, so inserting, updating, deleting, modifying. Okay, so such things means these are the daily activity, right? So this is the OLTP system. So these are also one of the source of structured data. Okay, guys. So what is meant by structured data? So structured data having predefined model. Okay, and in that we are going to store a data into the tabular format. Okay, so in the form of rows and columns. So one of they're having one of the most famous RDBMS softwares are Oracle, DB2, SQL Server, okay, Teradata, MySQL, PostgreSQL. Okay, so these are the some of the database management softwares. So in that we are going to, by using that software, we are going to what retrieve and manage and retrieve that information into the RDBMS. Okay, so what are the sources? So these databases are also such as DB2, Teradata, MySQL, Postgres. So this is also one of the source of structured data. Then another source of data is spreadsheet, you can call as the Excel sheets. So in the Excel also the data can be stored in the form of rows and columns. And another source is OLTP system. Okay, so in an organization, whatever the day-to-day activities are performed, okay, so these are also the source of structured data. Okay, means I am given one example, employee details, right? So in the they are having the employee table is there. So all the employee related information can be storing at there. So we are going to fire a query. You can retrieve that information by using DML, data manipulation language, insert, update, delete. Okay, so these things can be performed by using that OLTP systems. Okay, so these are the sources of structured data. Okay, now moving to the next part, easy of working with structured data. How you can work working with a structured data. So you all are familiar with that, right? Because in the second year, I think you are learn a subject that is database management system. So how you can use? So basically DML commands are there, right? So that is data manipulation language. So in that we are going to manipulate the data, right? So by using DML command, we are going to manipulate the data. So by in that we are going to perform a different operations are like insert, update, delete, right? Suppose you have to create a structure by using DDL, right? Data definition language. So in that data definition language, you can create a predefined structure. Okay, for example, employee table is there. Okay, so you can create an employee table by using DDL command. DDL in that DDL, which command is used? Create, right? Create table, right? So then you can specify the column names and what is the data type of that column. Okay, according to that, you can create a structure of that table, right? And after creating a table, then we are going to perform different operations, right? After creating a table, you can insert the values by using insert command, right? Then if you have to modify something, then you can use update. If you have to delete some record into your existing table, so you are going to use a delete command, right? So means these are the DML commands we are going to use for data manipulation. Data, how can manipulate the data? By using DML commands, insert, update, delete. Okay, so means working with the data structure, how we are going to interact with that structured data, right? The data can be stored in the tabular format, but how you can retrieve and how you can manage and how we are going to perform the operation on that data by using DML commands. Okay, so security, another thing is that how you can secure that data. So whatever the data can be storing into that Oracle, okay, MySQL. So how you can secure that data? So how does one ensure the security of that information? Whatever the information we are going to store into that database. So how we are going to secure that information? So there are available check encryption and tokenization solution to secure that information throughout the life cycle. Okay, so basically they're having means you can ensure only authorization, means those who are authorized person, right? So that person can be described that thing, and by they are going to use the view that sensitive information, right? So there we are going to provide some authorization for the accessing that information. So organization are able to retain control and maintain the compliance adherence by ensuring that only what authorized person can access that information, right? So those who are having some permission, you can grant the permission, right? So those who are having the permission to access that data, so only that authorized user can access. So by using that, we are going to provide the security to your structured data. Okay, then next is indexing, right? So index is a data structure that speed up the data retrieval operation. Okay, suppose in your table having the huge amount of data, okay, so that time you can not go for one by one each record. Okay, so they're having some, by using the indexing, we are going to retrieve the data fastly. Okay, suppose in any employee table having the suppose 1 lakh records are there, right? And we are going to access some data, so they're having some primary key by using that. So we are going to retrieve that information, right? So indexing is a data structure that can be speed up the data retrieval operation. So whatever the data we are going to retrieve from the huge amount of data, so by using indexing, you can fastly access that data. So at the cost of additional writes and storage space, but the benefit that ensure in search operation are worse in the additional writes and storage space. Okay, so by using select command, okay, for example, select star from employee. So all the records are displayed, but I want what? So I suppose I want an employee. Okay, I want an employee whose name is Amol Patil. Okay, so that time what we have to do? Select star from select employee. Okay, employee name from the employee, where employee name. Okay, select star from employee where employee name is equal to Amol Patil. Right. So means you can access the specify where clause is used. By using that, we are going to extract the specific information. Right. So that's why this indexing is useful. The next is the scalability. You can easily scale up that data. Means, for example, in already in that table we are going to store 1000 records are there, and by using the insert command, okay, again you can
Madam,
hello. Hello. एक मिनट कौन है बोलो. Okay, fine. The next thing is that what? Scalability. So the storage and processing capability of the traditional RDBMS can be easily scaled up, okay, by increasing the horsepower of that database server, increasing the primary and the secondary storage capacity, and also primary secondary storage capacity is increased. You are going to increase the processing capacity also, right? Processing capacity of that processor. So we can easily scale up. It means you can easily add the more records into that particular existing table. Okay, so this is also one of the thing. Another thing is how we can perform that transaction. So already you know that they're having the RDBMS has support the acid properties, right? So acid, A for atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability, right? So basically, when you performing any transaction, right? So these things can be ensured, right? The first, one of the first property is atomicity. Okay, so atomicity means what, right? What atomicity ensure that all the operations with the work unit are completed. Okay, means successfully, otherwise transaction is aborted. Okay, not of it all means atomicity is also known as all or nothing. All or nothing means all the transaction in within that work phrase are completed successfully. Otherwise, the transaction is, if any one of the transaction is failed, so all transactions are aborted. Okay, suppose if they're having 3 or 4 transactions are there, so all these 4 transactions are executed successfully. If any one of the transaction is aborted, if you're having some problem, so all the transactions are aborted, right? So that is nothing but the atomicity. Means suppose if the at the, if suppose third number transaction at that point having some failure, okay, they're having 4 transactions are there. Out of that 4, third transaction at that point having some failure, so previous operation is rolled back, okay, and all the transactions can be aborted. Means in the atomicity, we are going to ensure that all the operations with that work unit are completed successfully, or they are committed successfully. Otherwise, the transaction is aborted. Otherwise, transaction is aborted. So that is called as a atomicity. Okay. Then moving to the second property, that is consistency. In the consistency means what? The database moves from one consistent state to another consistent state. Okay. In other words, if some means you can say that ensure that database property change the state upon the successfully committed. Okay, means it can you can say that suppose if you have to successfully commit. For example, you can take one example at here. Suppose you can withdraw a money, right? Your previous balance is 10,000 and you can withdraw a 2,000 money, right? Your transaction has to be done successfully, right? So add it in database. So there your remaining balance is 8,000, right? So means they are having a consistent data. So that's why uh, the consistency is very important, right? So consistency ensure that the database property change the state upon the successful commit. एकदा तुमचं transaction successful commit झालं की the modification can be done into the database, right? If the successfully withdraw a money, right? The transaction is what? Withdraw a money. So you is done successfully. So remaining by executing that transaction, successfully committed that transaction, so the updation can be made into your database, right? So your remaining balance is 8,000. So this is nothing but the consistent data, right? So consistency ensure that database property change the state upon the database state change होणार आहे कधी successfully after the successfully committing the transaction, right? So that is nothing but the consistency. Then next property is isolation, right? So isolation means what? The resource allocation to the transaction happens such that transaction get the impression that is only transaction happen in isolation. This is very complicated, but here I am going to say in simple word. It can enable the transaction to operate independently and transfer to each other. Means, for example, so you have to perform the different locks, right? So no other transaction can be interfere. So that's why what happened? So they're having the inconsistency, right? So that's why every transaction we can ensure that you can enable that transaction to be operated or transaction is executed independently and transferred to each other. So after successfully completion of the first transaction, then you can go for the next time. So that data can be locked, right? So we are going to apply that exclusive lock and shared lock things, right? So means that transaction can be executed in isolation. Okay. So that is nothing but the isolation. And then next is the durability. Okay, so what is by durability? All the changes made to the database during a transaction. Okay, so these are permanent. Okay, and that account from the durability of that transaction. Means what? Ensure that the result or effect of the committed after the committed. Okay, so these are persist. Okay, in case of system fail. Okay, for example, I am withdrawing a 2,000 amount from my account. Okay, so now my balance is 8,000. And if suppose, for example, if there some problem can be occur and system is failed, right? But that amount means the data is persist. Okay, means your my balance is 8,000 if whether if in case the system is failed. So that is called as a durability. Means all the changes made to the database during the transactions are permanent, right? If and only if in case of the system is failed. So that is called as a durability. Okay, so these are the some of the acid properties. This RDBMS has support. So these four properties are that atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. Okay, so by using that, we are going to work with the structured database, right? So input, update, delete, we are going to provide search by using easily scalable by adding the processor capacity, and you can easily scale up that table. Then after that you can perform the transactions, right? So these are by using that we are going to use that structure command. What we have to do, so you have to by using ddl command, you can prepare you have to create a structure of that table, right? By using create command, create, update, then truncate commands are used at there. Then by using DML, these are the data manipulation language commands are there. So by using that, we are going to manipulate the data, means insert, update, and delete commands are used. Okay, so security, those who are the authorized person, right? Only that person can be access that information, right? So whatever the data means, you are going to perform the encryption, only authorized person can decrypt that information, and they are going to retrieve that information. The next, how you can search by using indexing. If you have to search the specific record or specific data from your huge amount of data, so by using indexing, we are going to easily search that data. Scalability, you can easily scalable, okay, easily add the more information to your existing database. And then we are next is the transaction processing. So by using different DML, DDL, DML, and DCL, okay, in the DCL that they are having the commit and rollback. So by using that, you are easily work with the structured data. Okay, now moving to the semi-structured. So already I am discussed, they're having no any predefined predefined data model. So this is a data which does not conform to a data model but has some structure. म्हणजे complete आपण म्हणू शकत नाही की structuredच आहे, but it means it does not conform to the data model but has some structure. For example, मी जर मगाशी example सांगितलं HTML, so they're having some structured format. So first you can write the HTML tag, then you can write your head and body tags are there, and according to that you can prepare that HTML document, right? So similarly the XML, JSON, so these are the some of the data is available, but it is not a sufficient. Okay, so this is a data semi-structure means what? This is a data which does not conform to a data model. म्हणजे कुठलेही एक प्रीडिफाईन्ड डेटा मॉडेल नसतं आणि बट हॅज सम स्ट्रक्चर. असं आपण प्रॉपर म्हणू शकत नाही, पण काही थिंग्स कॅन बी इन अ स्ट्रक्चरल फॉर्मॅट. ओके, सो हाउएव्हर it not a form which can be used easily by a computer program. But JSON's format वेगळा आहे, in the XML having different format, then HTML having different format. Okay, so such types of data is called as a semi-structured data. Okay, so it has the following features. Semi-structured data having following features. So what are the features are there? So it does not conform to a data model that are typically associated with the relational database or any other form of data table, right? So it is semi-structured means what? It is a combination of both. It can be false on both the types, structured and unstructured. Okay, so sometimes the data in the relational database, or sometimes it is not in a tabular format. So that's why it is a combination. Semi-structured data, it is a combination of structured and unstructured. Okay, so it use a tags to segregate the semantic element, right? So it use a tags. For example, you can consider the HTML, right? So it consists of the different tags, right? And according to that tags, we are going to design that web page, right? So they are having the different tags are there. So tags are also used to enforce the hierarchy of records and fields within that data. Okay, so again, you can suppose if you have to write a code in JSON format, if you have to write in the XML, if you have to write in the HTML, so you are going to so you can follow the hierarchy of that record in the field within that data. Okay, for example, first is a employee number, then employee name, employee address, okay, employee department. Okay, so you according to that, if you have to using a tag, but you have to means follow the hierarchy of that record. So there is no separation between the data and the schema. Okay, so they're having no any means you can first create the schema and then you can insert the data. In case of structured data type, what we have to do by using first DDL, you can create the structure of that table and then you are going to insert that data. But in case of semi-structure, they're having no any separation between the structure and schema. Okay, the amount of structure used to dedicated by the purpose at hand. Some of the data in the structure, because it is a combination of both structured data or unstructured data, right? So in semi-structured data, entities belonging to the same class and also it is grouped together need not necessarily have the same set of the attribute. Okay, म्हणजे ज्या क्लासमध्ये जे attributes आहेत की so whatever the entities are there, okay, so if they're having the classes and these entities are grouped, so they're having not necessary to have the same set of the attributes can be grouped into the one entity. Okay, and if it at all they all have the same set of the attributes, the order of the attributes may not be similar and all the practical purpose it is not important. Example, here I am going to give one example at here. For example, XML and JSON. Okay, yeah, if you have to take the example of HTML and JSON format. Okay, so so you know that XML is an extensible markup language. It is a huge